Yeah. So,
All right, go ahead.
despite the moratorium, foreclosure activity is on a steep incline. So, is that a good or a bad thing? And if it is a good thing, how could that be? Some housing analysts have grown concerned about what will happen to the real estate market when temporary foreclosure moratoriums are lifted. Will it spark a wave of new foreclosures and lead to a crisis? Already, foreclosure activity is on the rise. Even though the moratoriums are still in place and the government has relaxed requirements for mortgage forbearance due to the Rona, foreclosure filings in March rose 5%, which is kind of a big jump. And that is compared to the previous month, according to Adam Data Solution. But that slight uptick could be a good thing, analysts note. This is a quote. The foreclosure moratorium on government-backed loans has virtually stopped foreclosure activity over the past year, says Rick Sharga. He is the executive vice president of Realty Track, which is an Adam Data Solutions company. He goes on to say, but mortgage servicers have been able to begin the foreclosure action on vacant and abandoned properties, which benefits neighborhoods and communities, right? That's a positive. So it's likely that these foreclosures are causing that slight uptick we've seen over the past few months. Homeowners with federally backed loans could receive up to 18 months of forbearance, but those who receive such assistance at the beginning of the Rona could see those protections lift after September. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau estimates that could put about 1.7 million homeowners at risk of losing their homes. This is a quote. There is a tidal wave of distressed homeowners who will need help. CFPB Acting Director Dave Ueho, sorry if I butchered your last name, he said in a recent statement. But high home prices and growing homeowner equity likely will prevent another foreclosure crisis. That's the point right there. We've said that on the show over and over again. But high home prices and growing homeowner equity will likely prevent another foreclosure crisis, housing experts say. Also, a historic, which Clayton said earlier in our chat, a historic housing shortage will keep demand for homes high. For homeowners who are unable to make those payments, they could sell and potentially for a high profit. So, again, I think we've been saying this stuff on the show for a while, and I think that's where we stand.
Yeah. I'm wondering if the number of homes that are being foreclosed on is going to have an impact on that bottom end supply, and if it will even be enough or drop in the bucket.
But
Because
anything would help, right? I mean, technically those foreclosures they'd have to be the boarded up, the beat up, the 5 out of 10, the 4s out of 10s to come on the market to really help that bottom end of the supply. But so two parts to that is a flipper going to buy that? Is an investor going to buy that and flip it? And how does that help a market? And then other than bring another high price home on the market once it's all done, or are there going to be affordable houses come on the market? Because I see it as a positive thing when they're speaking of, the vacant properties and the abandoned properties.
Yeah. There is an article that was out that we're not covering today that just talked about how buyers were looking more into homes that needed work, that they weren't so focused on homes that are just, perfect. And we went through a phase. We were doing the show when we started going through this phase where it seemed like the home buyers were changing and they were getting so picky about all of these houses, and that they were, they would put a home under contract and at the slightest, wrong thing during the inspection, they were bailing. And they're not so much anymore. And it has taken them about a year for buyers to be like, okay, well, I get it now. I'm going to have to do some of this stuff myself. But I think now they're even turning to, fixer uppers. I've had several buyers that were looking for new properties or newer looking properties on the market, remodels. And they said, well, you know what? We'll take the one with the green shag carpet that smells like cat pee, and we will do this ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I'm also seeing that in my own business. Clayton Fernando Estrems chimes in. He says, NAR said we need 2.7 million homes to get to 6-month inventory. Wow. Yeah, that was Lawrence Yoon.
Yeah, and that's a ways out. I mean, that's a lot. So hopefully this would help generate that. And these homes are just sitting vacant, hurting these neighborhoods anyway. So, I love the positive spin they put on it. It's not just all gloom and doom. The big thing is that what did it say? 1.7 million homeowners could be affected by this. So we'll have to see what happens there.
D Jones says she's been trying to do 203K loans. Yeah, that's the FHA loan with the construction stuff on top of that.
Yeah, and that would help too, because I have noticed the exact same thing, right? All of a sudden, that 8, 9, and 10, kind of the really done house. All of a sudden, I'm okay with the 6. If grandma smoked in there for 50 years, I'll just rip all the wallpaper off, take out the
Yes.
carpet, repaint it. I'll be fine, and
Yep.
all of a sudden that's opening up. And all the other side of it is that when you're actually in escrow, all of a sudden, like before, if there's a hole between the garage and the house, which would be a possible fire hazard, all of a sudden that's okay now.
Yeah. You don't have to have a
roofing shingle is okay now. It's a lot of loosening up, and I think they have to do that because of the market.
Yeah.